What's going on, everyone? So Victor Wembanyama has been very impressive with France. I mean, the guy has he's pulling off stunts that defy logic, are literally from movies, right? Everyone's talking about the Space Jam dunk from the France versus Brazil game. And, Victor just continues to be incredibly impressive. But he's had his struggles playing alongside Rudy Gobert. The duo at times have their moments, particularly on the defensive side, just teams having to fight through the trees that are those two guys. But you've seen that Victor is just so much better when Rudy Gobert is off the court. He can kind of play in that 5 spot, get those minutes without Rudy. And it's caused a lot of people to go, this is why you have to keep Victor at the 5. This is why it doesn't make sense to get a center. Victor is the center. And I do think that Victor is probably best slotted at the center position. However, I have talked heavily about how I think it is best for Victor to have a center alongside him. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to start that center, but I do think that there is a need for a kind of bigger body that can handle some of the wear and tear, so Victor doesn't have to handle that against the Jokic's of the world, the Embiids of the world, particularly in the Western Conference. I mean, you think of, Jokic and, now Memphis Grizzlies got Zach Edey, you got Ivica Zubac, right? You got all these guys in the Western Conference. I mean, even Rudy Gobert has to match up that are just big, physical, that can just, basically push Victor around, particularly because he doesn't have the weight and size behind him. And until he actually gets that and starts getting his grown man body and stuff, there is concerns about just the wear and tear, but also, the injuries that come with him just getting banged around all the time. And so there is that concern. I don't look at what the concerns with Victor and Rudy are as evidence that Victor can't play alongside a center. I look at it as he can't play alongside a center like Rudy Gobert, which is the problem with pretty much everyone else. I mean, even Karl Anthony Towns, who is one of, if not the best big men shooters in the league, has his struggles playing alongside Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is a big body that just takes up a ton of space in the center. And that's a problem, right? Particularly with how the NBA has evolved, particularly with the type of offenses that you want to run, right? Particularly with Victor's skill set, where you kind of want the paint open, right? You kind of want that to be a thing where Victor can operate from basically anywhere on the court when needed. Rudy Gobert isn't a guy that, even if you pull him out of the paint, nobody cares, right? He ain't shooting, and if he does shoot, please let him. If he wants to take 100 shots a game, let him, right? So I don't believe that Victor alongside a center like a Rudy Gobert makes sense. I do, however, think if you slot him around alongside the proper center, then I think he could make some real noise, right? I think he's a guy, if you put Victor alongside, an Anthony Davis, I think he'd be great. Or a Bam Adebayo, I think he'd be great. Or, even a Joel Embiid, I think he'd be great. Guys that can get out of the paint and still be a threat and actually have to draw out the defender. So Victor can operate and can get into the post and can take his guy off the dribble and use his length to finish over the top. And it's not clunky and awkward and in the way, right? I do think if they could get somebody like a Wendell Carter Jr., I've mentioned, right? He's not really a Bam Adebayo, but he is kind of that next tier as far as a versatile big man that can play the 4, play the 5, but also stretch the floor, right? Play a little bit of defense, has the versatility out on the perimeter, right? I think you do something like that, or even a Walker Kessler, right? Maybe not out the gate, but Walker Kessler has shown the ability to step out and knock down the occasional 3. I think if you were to put Walker Kessler alongside a Victor Wembanyama, and Kessler continues to evolve and become a respectable three-point shooter, not even elite, not even great, but just respectable, then I think Victor could slot alongside him and be very valuable. I think you need a mobile, versatile center, not some stiff, big, clogging up the paint type center. And I think if you were to get something like that, then I think you would be able to see, oh, no, this looks great. But when you slot Victor alongside a guy like a Rudy Gobert, it looks like it just looks bad. Right? Because Victor can't do all the things and take advantage of all the things that he can usually take advantage of when he's slotted at the 5. But if you have a center that is able to get out the way and still be that threat to where teams like, you know, hey, we can't leave this guy open, or even out on the mid-range, because the problem is, like, you know, even some centers that can't knock down the 3 ball with consistency, they can still draw out to like 15 feet and knock that down with efficiency. So teams still have to worry and go challenge and contest that because they'll knock it down, right? Like, so even if you don't have a guy, because there is more to floor spacing than just shooting the 3 ball. But the problem with like a Rudy Gobert is, like, anywhere besides like 5 feet at the basket, nobody's worried about him. Nobody. Teams don't care. Right? Like, if he's 6 feet from the basket, teams are like, it's all right. Like, if he wants to shoot it, let him shoot it. Right? And that's a problem. Right? He's in the way rather than helping maximize Wemby. And so you look at Wemby and you look at his gift and you look at his intangibles. Again, I do think he is probably best at the center spot. Anthony Davis is somebody I mentioned earlier, right? That I think he'd be just perfect alongside. Like, that'd be terrifying. But using Anthony Davis as an example, and you look at the 2020 season, right, when the Lakers won the NBA championship, Anthony Davis slotted at the 4, but more times than not closed as the 5. You know, they would start, you know, JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard alongside Anthony Davis. And then Anthony Davis would play, you know, kind of spot minutes at the 5. But when it came to the end of games and you wanted that versatility and that shooting and the defense out on the perimeter and all that stuff, you were able to just slide AD to the 5, and then they were able to win a championship that way. I think you could do a lot of the same things with Wemby, where let's say you get a Walker Kessler. Just use Walker Kessler, right? If you were to get a Walker Kessler, I think you could start a Walker Kessler alongside a Victor Wembanyama. Most matchups, or even some matchups, you could, if you wanted to, close with the 2 bigs. Even the Lakers did that with Anthony Davis at times. But if you are playing a specific team where Wemby is best as a matchup, or, you know, they're kind of, you know, taking advantage of Walker Kessler or whatever, you can pull Walker Kessler out and then throw in Wemby and slot him at the 5, and then maybe go with some more perimeter defense, right? Or if a team goes small or whatever, right? Especially late in games. I think that to have that versatility and have that luxury would be very good, and you'd save a lot of wear and tear on Victor. You wouldn't have to ask him to kind of match up against these big-bodied centers. I just think it'd go a long way. So I still do believe that getting another big man to slot alongside Victor, I mean, you could almost argue Wendell Carter Jr. might be better, just because he can slot in at the 5. And then if you want to move Wemby to the 5, you can still run Wendell Carter at the 4. Where Kessler, he's basically a 5. Right? You don't really want him as a 4. But, you know, I think that the versatility with Victor is very valuable. And I do think if you get the right center, the right versatile center alongside Wemby, I think that he can really, I think he would thrive. I think he'd be very good, especially as he continues to develop his shot and become more consistent in that regard, right? Because if he's able to stretch the floor, knock down the three ball with the level of consistency, that mid-range, all those things, then that just opens up so much more. And then also, if you have a center that can score around the rim, then that also opens up for that center, where if Wemby's able to stretch the floor and say you have like a Walker Kessler, you know, you could dump it down to Kessler. He can kind of go to work in the post, get the easy bucket, but also you could kick it out to Wemby and he becomes a scoring threat out on the perimeter. Kind of have that nice balance. But I really still believe the best course of action is to get another big guy. Either a versatile big guy, like I said, like a Wendell Carter Jr. that can slot in at the 4 or the 5, right? So you can have him slot in at the 5 at times, or just get a standard 5 and just let Wemby be the 4. And, you know, in certain matchups, or, you know, if you're in the playoffs and it's a, you know, an elimination game or something, you could always slide Wemby to the 5 if need be. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you think, like, yeah, like, you know, it's not so much that he can't play along a center. It's just Rudy Gobert. Again, you see the commonality everywhere Rudy's been. There's always been a concern. I mean, even with Minnie at times has had their issues, right? And Karl Anthony Towns gets phased out a lot, right? And he kind of just became a wing rather than a real sizable 7-foot power forward, right? So, you know, you also don't want to neutralize Wemby. You don't want that to where now you're taking away his traits. It's kind of what's happening with France alongside Rudy, where if you have a guy that is more versatile and can step out, then Wemby can use his advantages, and particularly around the rim and stuff. But again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.